Hi, everyone. Almost Shabbat Shalom. So a long time ago, the Talmud tells us in Shabbat 31a that a person came to the great sage Hillel and said, I will convert to Judaism if you can teach me the entire Torah, She'ani omed al regel echad, while I'm standing on one foot. Now, he'd also gone to the great sage Shammai and asked the same question, but Shammai had no time for this foolishness and pushed him out of the door. But Hillel was patient and thoughtful and took this question seriously. He thought for a moment, and he responded, Da'alach snei lechavrech lo ta'aved. Zohi kol Torah kula. Ve'idach perushahu. Zil gmor. That which is hateful to you, don't do to another person. That's the entire Torah, and the rest is commentary. Go and study. Now, we always understand the question of the potential proselyte as literally standing on one foot, right? On the menorah outside the Knesset in Israel, there's a carving of this scene, and we see the person standing on one foot. But the Kli Yakar, 15th, 16th century Torah commentary, explains that by one leg, regel echad, the person meant one principle which encapsulated the entire Torah. And Hillel was very sharp to hear the statement al regel echad and think of regil, which means a habit related to our word regular. So the question really becomes, what habit do I need to make a regular part of my life in order to live a life of Torah? To which Hillel responds, that which is hateful to you, do not do to another. That's the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. Go and study. So from this, we learn three important things to make a part of our regular lives, to live based on the essence of Torah. Thanks to Targum Yonatan, one of the Aramaic translations of the Torah, and the fact that Yonatan was a student of Hillel, we see something to this effect as the translation for the verse in our Parshat, Acharei Mot-Kedoshim, chapter 19, verse 18, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. But why did Hillel invert the sentiment from the positive command, love your neighbor, to a negative command, don't do what is hateful? What's the significance? The significance seems to be in the subjective experience. Let's say someone reads this mitzvah, love my neighbor as I love myself. Okay, and that person happens to love when people compliment their clothing. So they decide that they're going to start complimenting their neighbor's clothing. But it turns out that their neighbor is dealing with body issues and takes those compliments as negative commentary on their body. That doesn't feel good, and they're not doing the mitzvah. So it's selfish to say, I'm just going to do what I like for someone else, because we all have different desires. It's a much safer assumption that humans have the same dislikes, and therefore it's easier to do the actual mitzvah of showing love when we understand it the way Hillel presents it. I don't like it when someone swerves into my lane without signaling, causing a potentially dangerous situation, so I try not to do that to anyone else. And we see Hillel's understanding reflected in the preceding verses. Don't defraud your neighbor. Don't steal. Don't gossip about people. Don't profit off the suffering of others. Not one truthful person could say that they enjoy having these things done to them. Therefore, we show our love to others by not doing things to them that we wouldn't want done to us. So understanding this significance is the first important takeaway to live lives based on the essence of Torah. Our Torah is called Torat Chaim, which means that it is living Torah, not static Torah. And it changes as we grow, as the world evolves. And it's also Torat Chaim, Torah for living. Torah that offers us guidance in each moment of our lives, no matter if we're a farmer in the 4th century or if we're safely in our homes living the digital life in 2020. How do we read Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha this year, at this moment? The first few weeks of quarantine have showed us that humans are selfish. Now, sometimes being selfish is good, right? Maybe not so much when we're hoarding a whole bunch of toilet paper, but sometimes it's good. Remember what they say on airplanes. Put your own mask on before trying to help someone else. And apparently the same holds true now. What good would it be for me to give one of my masks, or my only mask, I should say, to someone else so that they can live? Am I less worthy? Are they more worthy? No. So we have to care about ourselves first, and that's okay. And to honestly engage with ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha and da'alach snei lechavrech lo ta'aved, it requires us, it requires an awareness that many people don't possess. Love others the way you love yourself. If it hurts you, don't do it to others. But so many times we put ourselves and our needs second, third, last. Why? There's value in knowing how to put ourselves first and knowing when to say no. Some of us have to learn to love ourselves the way we love others, as much as we love others. We have to recognize that if we wouldn't tolerate it being done to someone else, we shouldn't tolerate it being done to us. Love your neighbor as you love yourself is a conditional statement, because if you don't love yourself first, how can you ever know how to love someone else? If you don't know where your own boundaries are, how can you protect someone else's? This awareness is the second important takeaway to live lives based on the essence of Torah. Now, for the third takeaway, we have to look at the end of the verse. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, ani yud-heh vav-heh. I am Hashem. Figuring out this love, how we show it, when do we put ourselves first, where are our boundaries, it can become a very selfish and self-seeking endeavor. As protection, we have to slow down and tune into God consciousness. Tune into Yud-Heh Vav-Heh. And on Monday night, in our Tiferet class, we talked about the nature of Yud-Heh Vav-Heh, which is the Sefira of Tiferet, which is Emet, truth, and Mishpat, justice. Ani Yud-Heh Vav-Heh is here at the end of this verse as a stern warning, or perhaps a gentle reminder, that as we endeavor to do this mitzvah, to truly love others, to abstain from harmful behavior, to love ourselves, we have to make sure that our intentions are pure and that we are seeking to do the mitzvah for God's sake and not for our own selfish sake. Shabbat Shalom.